Question number 2, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he have confidence in the Honourable Steven Joyce, given his statement that SkyCity reducing the size of the convention centre by, quotes, around 10% would not cause the Crown too much concern, end quotes.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes I do. Steven Joyce didn't want to put extra money in last week in the convention centre, but it looks like Andrew Little did on the radio.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given the deal...
Order.
Given the deal lays out precisely detailed gambling concessions in return for a 3,500-seat convention centre, if the convention centre is smaller, will SkyCity's concessions also be reduced?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, I think what the deal does is lay out for a $402 million spend, and what we can see from SkyCity is they'll be spending at least $402 million and probably more.
It's going to be smaller.
Supplementary.
The House always wins.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Mr Speaker, what has SkyCity given in return for being allowed to build a smaller convention centre, or is this just a gift from us to them?
Well, Mr.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, for start off, the plans haven't actually been approved by the government, but what the government has done is acknowledged that some of the points that SkyCity make are fair. There's been escalation in some of the costs, but overall, SkyCity have a very strong interest in building a world-class convention centre, despite actually what the member says that no one's interested in coming to New Zealand, which is an interesting position to take if you one day want to be Prime Minister. I'm pretty confident they actually will.
Okay. Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Can he confirm that under the deal he's negotiated on our behalf, New Zealand taxpayers could now get a smaller convention centre for the same regulatory cost as before?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the final convention centre actually has to be agreed by the government, and that's the purpose of them coming back. What the government has done is given SkyCity the changes in its legislation, which account for about $402 million of benefit in return for at least $402 million being sent. That's the salient point.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question. Order. Order.
Will he bring this new downgraded deal back to Parliament, given this House approved extra pokies and other concessions in exchange for a 3,500-seat convention centre, not a smaller one?
Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime
Minister
Minister
needs to see what Parliament agreed to, which was a $402 million convention centre. We'll say also that SkyCity started with a plan at 33,000 square feet, moved it actually up to metres, moved it up to 38,000 square metres. So let's see how it finally goes. But last week, from what I could see, the members seemed in favour of a free convention centre, actually in favour of putting in a few more million of taxpayers' money, and after all of that, thought nobody wants to come to New Zealand. Yeah, interesting response.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Which 10% of the convention centre is actually going to be cut? Is it the roof, one of the walls, the windows? What's going?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm absolutely confident that SkyCity will build a world-class convention centre, that many people will come and be part of world-class conventions there. But here's an interesting point. Labor members will be able to kick the tyres on this when they go and visit the SkyCity box to their rugby and entertainment, because we know they're going to sneak behind the bike sheds and do that like they always do.
Order. Order. I don't think that answer will help the order of the House. Supplementary. Order. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why did he go around the country promising a free 3,500-seat convention centre when now he can't deliver it?
That's right. Well, Mr Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
What I did go is round the country and promise that there would be a world-class convention centre provided without taxpayer support, and guess what? That's happening. What I didn't do was go on the radio last week and say, oh, we could toss in a few million. What I didn't do was go on the radio last week and say, no one wants to come to New Zealand. Mr Speaker, it's going to be a good deal for New Zealand. World-class convention centre, no taxpayer funds. Deal done by the national government.
Mr
Speaker.
Order. Question number 3, Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to